I used to believe the hardest thing in marriage was surviving the bad days. I was wrong. The hardest thing was realizing that the person you trusted the most could stand beside you while someone else destroyed you. My name is Ethan Walker. 5 years ago, I married Victoria Hayes. At that time, she wasn't the chief of police. She was Detective Hayes, a woman who worked 16-hour shifts, came home exhausted, and still apologized for missing dinner because she was chasing criminals who had hurt innocent people. I loved that woman. I loved her ambition. I loved her stubbornness. I loved the way she looked at me after every difficult case and said, "I couldn't do this without you." And I believed her. For years, I was the person behind her. When she studied for promotions, I stayed awake with her. When she failed her first attempt at becoming lieutenant, I was the one who told her she wasn't finished. When she was investigating a dangerous gang case and started receiving threats, I was the one who checked the locks every night before we went to sleep. I wasn't a police officer. I wasn't a politician. I wasn't some wealthy businessman. I was just Ethan, the man who loved Victoria Hayes. And for a long time, I thought that was enough. Until Daniel Cross came back. The first time Victoria mentioned him, we were having dinner at home. She was looking at her phone. Normally, she hated checking messages during dinner. That night was different. She smiled. Not a normal smile. A smile I hadn't seen in years. I put down my fork. "Who is it?" She looked up. "What? You smile at your phone." She locked the screen immediately. "It's nobody." I laughed quietly. "Victoria, you're terrible at lying." Her expression changed. Not much, but enough. "It's Daniel." The name meant nothing to me at first. Daniel? My ex-husband. The words landed heavier than I expected. "He's still here. You still talk to him?" She frowned. "Ethan, don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I just asked a question." He came back to town. And he needed help. I leaned back. "Help from you?" "Yes." I waited. I thought she would explain. I thought she would say something like, "He's going through a difficult time, but don't worry." She didn't. Instead, she picked up her glass. "He used to be my partner." I nodded slowly. "I know." "No, you don't." Her voice became defensive. "You never knew what we went through." That sentence bothered me, because I did know. I knew because she told me. I knew about her years as a young detective. I knew about the cases that almost broke her. I knew about the people she lost. But suddenly, it felt like there was a part of her life where I was just an outsider, a stranger listening from the doorway. "Victoria," I said, "why does it feel like you're defending him?" She looked annoyed. "Because you're judging him without knowing him. He's still here, and you're protecting him without thinking about how that makes me feel." She didn't answer. That was the first time I felt something change between us. Not a fight, not anger, something worse. Distance. A week later, Daniel Cross appeared at one of Victoria's charity events. I knew he would be there. Victoria had told me, "It's just a professional thing." She said. I remembered those words. Because people always use them when they want you to ignore something. "It's just work. It's just a friend. It's not what you think." I had heard every version, but I still trusted my wife. That was my mistake. The event was supposed to celebrate police officers and community leaders. Victoria was a guest of honor. Everyone respected her, and I was proud of her, even after everything. I still was. That was the sad part. I was standing near the entrance when Daniel walked in. He looked exactly like the kind of man who knew everyone was watching him. Expensive suit, perfect smile, too much confidence. Victoria immediately walked toward him. Not me, him. She hugged him. Not a polite greeting. A real hug. The kind of hug that made me feel like I was watching a memory I wasn't part of. Daniel noticed me. His smile widened. "Ethan." I nodded. "Daniel." He walked over. "So you're the husband." I smiled politely. That's usually how marriage works. A few people nearby laughed. Daniel laughed too, but his eyes didn't. "I've heard a lot about you. Hopefully good things." He looked at Victoria, then back at me. "Well," he paused. "I guess everyone has their own definition of good." Victoria heard him. She should have stopped him. She didn't. I looked at her. Did you hear that? She sighed. Ethan, no. I'm asking if you heard him. Daniel raised his hands. Relax. I am joking. I looked at him. Funny. I didn't laugh. The smile disappeared from his face. For a second, I thought Victoria would support me. Instead, she said, Ethan, don't make this uncomfortable. I felt my chest tighten. Not because Daniel insulted me, because my wife cared more about the atmosphere than my feelings. Later that night, Daniel gave a speech. He talked about his history with Victoria, their years together, their old cases, their achievements. At first, I listened. Then he said, some people are lucky enough to stand next to greatness. He looked at Victoria. And some people are lucky enough to help create it. Everyone applauded. Then he looked at me. The room became quiet. You know, Ethan, Victoria always had a special drive. I smiled. I know. Daniel nodded. Of course you do. Then he continued. But honestly, there were times when I wondered if anyone could really understand her the way I did. That was not an accident. Everyone knew what he was doing. I looked at Victoria, waiting for her to say, Daniel, stop. But she didn't. She just sat there, quiet. Daniel continued. Victoria and I went through things most people could never imagine. A few people nodded. He was building a story where he was a hero, and I was just the guy who showed up later. Then he said, no offense, Ethan, but some connections are impossible to replace. The room went silent. My face burned. I wanted to stand up. I wanted to say something, anything, but before I could move, Victoria spoke. Daniel, that's enough. For a moment, I felt relieved. Finally, she defended me. But then she added, let's not ruin the event. Not, don't disrespect my husband. Not, you cross a line. Just, don't ruin the event. The message was clear. My humiliation was acceptable, as long as nobody noticed. When we got home, I closed the door behind us. Victoria immediately took off her coat. You were rude tonight. I stared at her. Excuse me? You challenged Daniel in front of everyone. He insulted me. He was joking. No, Victoria. He was testing how much he could get away with. She rolled her eyes. You're being insecure. That word hurt, because it was the easiest way to dismiss me. Insecure? Yes. She walked toward the bedroom. You're making something out of nothing. I followed her. Something out of nothing? Yes. He embarrassed me in front of your colleagues. He made a comment. He questioned my place in your life. She stopped. Then she said something I would remember forever. Maybe you shouldn't be so sensitive. I stood there, looking at my wife, the woman I had supported for 5 years, the woman whose career I had sacrificed for. And for the first time, I wondered, did she still see me as her husband? Or just someone who would always forgive her? I didn't sleep that night, not because I was angry. Anger would have been easier. I stayed awake because I kept replaying one sentence in my head. Maybe you shouldn't be so sensitive. 5 years of marriage. 5 years of standing beside her. 5 years of believing I mattered. And somehow, in one conversation, I became the problem. The next morning, Victoria acted like nothing happened. That hurt more than the argument. She walked into the kitchen, grabbed her coffee, and checked her phone. No apology. No conversation. Nothing. I looked at her. Are we just pretending last night didn't happen? She didn't look up. Ethan, I have a busy day. That's not an answer. She sighed. I don't have time to argue before work. I stared at her. You think this is an argument? She finally looked at me. What do you want me to say? I almost laughed, because that was the problem. She didn't understand anymore. I wanted you to say you were sorry. For what? The question shocked me. For letting another man humiliate me. She shook her head. Daniel didn't humiliate you. He did. He was making a point. What point? She looked away. That sometimes people from our past understand us in ways other people don't. I felt my stomach drop. There it was. The truth she had been avoiding. Is that what you think? Think what? That Daniel understands you better than I do. She didn't answer. And sometimes silence is the answer you don't want. For the next 2 weeks, Daniel became a part of our lives. Not officially. Victoria was too careful for that. She never said anything that sounded wrong. She always had an explanation. Daniel needs advice. Daniel helped me during my first years as a detective. Daniel is going through a difficult period. But I noticed everything. The late night calls. The messages she quickly deleted. The way her mood changed whenever his name appeared. One evening, I walked into the living room and saw her smiling at her phone. Again, I asked Daniel. She immediately locked the screen. "You're checking my phone now?" I frowned. "I didn't touch your phone. But you keep asking about him. Because he keeps appearing in our marriage." Her expression hardened. "That's unfair." "No, Victoria. What's unfair is that I feel like I'm competing with someone who isn't even supposed to be here." She stood up. "You're making this about jealousy. I'm making this about respect." "Respect?" "Yes." I stepped closer. "I need my wife to make me feel like I'm her husband." She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, "Maybe you need to stop needing so much reassurance." That sentence stayed with me because I realized something. I wasn't asking for too much. I was asking the wrong person. A few days later, Victoria invited me to another event, a police foundation dinner. She said, "I want you there," for the first time in weeks. I felt hopeful. Maybe this was her way of fixing things. Maybe she realized what she had done. Maybe my marriage wasn't falling apart. I was wrong. Again, when we arrived, Daniel was already there. Victoria didn't seem surprised. I looked at her. "You knew he was coming?" She hesitated. "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you would react like this." "You still to hear." "Like what?" "Like you're doing now." I laughed quietly. "So you hid it because you knew I would be upset?" She didn't answer. That was enough. During the dinner, Daniel kept finding reasons to talk to Victoria. Old stories, old memories, old jokes, things I wasn't part of. At one point, one of Victoria's colleagues walked over. "Ethan, you're lucky." I smiled politely. "Why?" He nodded toward Victoria. "Most men couldn't handle being married to someone with that kind of responsibility." I laughed. "I'm proud of her." He smiled. "You must be." Then Daniel walked over. "Ethan, you should hear some of the stories from when Victoria and I worked together." I looked at him. "I'm sure they're interesting." Daniel smiled. They were. Then he leaned slightly closer. "Victoria was different back then." I didn't respond. He continued. "She was fearless." "She still is." Daniel nodded. "Maybe." That word bothered me. "Maybe?" He smiled. "You know what I mean." "No, I don't." He looked around. "Victoria used to chase criminals with me. We trusted each other with our lives." I looked at Victoria. She was listening. Again, waiting, watching. Daniel lowered his voice. "There are some bonds you don't create overnight." I said, "Are you trying to tell me something?" He smiled. "I'm just saying some people arrive late and think they understand everything." That was when I knew. He wasn't joking. He was challenging me in front of everyone. And Victoria knew. I walked away before I said something I would regret. I went outside. A few minutes later, Victoria followed. "Ethan." I turned around. "Did you come out here to tell me he crossed a line?" She stayed quiet. I nodded. "That's what I thought." "Ethan, Daniel's been through a lot." I stared at her. "You're defending him." "I'm explaining." "No, you're defending him." She crossed her arms. "You always assume the worst, and you always give him the benefit of the doubt." "That's not true." "Then prove it." She looked at me. "How?" "Tell me he was wrong." Silence. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Nothing. I smiled. Not because it was funny. Because I finally understood. "You can't even say it." "Ethan." "No." I shook my head. "I don't need you to choose me over him." Her face changed. "I just needed you to remember I was supposed to be your husband." She looked hurt, but not enough. Not enough to change. That night, after we got home, Victoria went straight to bed. I stayed in the living room. I didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe answers. Maybe proof. Maybe a reason why my wife had changed. Then I noticed something. Her tablet was connected to our home account. A message notification appeared. I wasn't trying to read it. but I saw Daniel's name and one sentence. Daniel. Tonight was perfect. He looked exactly like we expected. My hands froze. I opened the message. I knew I shouldn't, but something inside me said I needed to know. The conversation was worse than I imagined. Daniel, you handled him well. Victoria, he's emotional, but harmless. Daniel, you're sure he won't cause problems? Victoria, Ethan won't fight back. I stared at those words over and over. Ethan won't fight back. The woman I loved, the woman I protected, the woman I built my life around. She didn't see me as someone she loved. She saw me as someone she controlled. Then another message appeared. Daniel, you still feel guilty? Victoria, sometimes. Daniel, why? Victoria, because he really did love me. I stopped breathing for a second. Then Daniel replied, love makes people easy to manage. And Victoria answered, I know. I closed the tablet. I didn't confront her. Not that night. I didn't scream. I didn't wake her up. I just sat there because something inside me had changed. A week ago, I was fighting to save my marriage. That night, I started thinking about saving myself. The next morning, I made a decision. I bought a small digital recorder, not because I wanted revenge, because I finally understood something. When someone powerful decides to rewrite the truth, you need evidence. And I had a feeling Victoria Hayes and Daniel Cross were about to give me plenty. I used to think betrayal would feel like anger. I imagined that if someone ever hurt me deeply enough, I would explode. I would yell. I would demand answers. I would walk away immediately. But the truth was different. Betrayal felt quiet. It felt like waking up next to someone and realizing you didn't know them anymore. After I saw those messages between Victoria and Daniel, I didn't confront her. Not because I was afraid, because I needed to understand how far it had gone. For 5 years, Victoria Hayes had been my wife, the woman everyone admired, the police chief who shook hands with politicians, gave speeches about justice, and told the public that trust was the foundation of everything. But at home, she was the person who looked at me and said, Ethan won't fight back. That sentence changed everything. The next morning, Victoria acted normal. That was the part that hurt the most. She walked into the kitchen, wearing her uniform, grabbed her coffee, and kissed my cheek like nothing happened. Morning. I looked at her. Morning. She smiled. You're quiet. I almost laughed. You noticed? She stopped. What's that supposed to mean? I took a sip of coffee. Nothing. She studied my face. You're upset. No. Ethan. I said I'm fine. She didn't believe me, but she also didn't ask why. That told me everything. The old Victoria would have noticed immediately. She would have sat beside me and asked what was wrong. The new Victoria just checked the time. I have a meeting. Of course she did. There was always something more important. Over the next few days, I changed, not in a way Victoria noticed. I still came home. I still answered her questions. I still acted like a husband. But I stopped trying to convince her to care. That was the difference. Before, every argument ended with me trying to make her understand. Now I just watched. I watched how often Daniel called. I watched how quickly she defended him. I watched how easily she dismissed me. And the more I watched, the clearer everything became. Daniel wasn't just back in her life. He was replacing me. 3 days later, Victoria told me about the Police Foundation Gala. We need to attend Friday night. I looked up from my laptop. We? She nodded. Yes, you're my husband. The words should have made me happy. Instead, they felt strange. You want me there? She frowned. Why wouldn't I? I almost answered. Because you've spent the last month making me feel like I'm in your way. But I didn't. I simply said, nothing. She walked closer. Ethan, I know things have been tense. I waited. Finally, a conversation, an apology, something. She continued. But I need you to be mature. My expression changed. Mature? Yes. What does that mean? It means don't create problems. He stared at her. Problems? Daniel will be there. There it was. The real reason. I smiled. So this isn't about spending time with me. She sighed. Why do you always turn everything into an attack? Because every time Daniel appears, I become the enemy. That's not fair, isn't it? She didn't answer. Then she said, just trust me. I looked at her. That was the one thing she kept asking for. Trust, even when she gave me reasons not to. Friday night arrived. I wore the suit Victoria bought me for our anniversary. I almost changed before leaving, not because I disliked it, because I remembered why she bought it. She had told me, I want you beside me when I become chief. Back then, she meant it. At least I thought she did. When we arrived at the gala, Victoria immediately became Chief Hayes. Confident, professional. Everyone wanted to talk to her. Everyone wanted her attention. I stood beside her and smiled. That was my role. The supportive husband. The man behind the successful woman. I was used to it until Daniel arrived. The reaction was immediate. People greeted him. They shook his hand. They called him by his first name. Victoria smiled when she saw him, a smile she rarely gave me anymore. Daniel walked toward us. Victoria. She hugged him, right in front of me. Again, I looked away, not because I didn't care, because I did. Too much. Daniel looked at me. Ethan. Daniel. He smiled. You look good. Thanks. He nodded. Victoria always had good taste. The comment sounded harmless. But I knew him now. Everything he said had a purpose. Victoria touched his arm. Daniel. What? He smiled. I'm complimenting her. Then he looked at me. You're a lucky guy. I said, I know. He smiled. Do you? I felt my jaw tighten. Before I could answer, Victoria interrupted. Let's not do this tonight. Again, not defending me, just managing me. Later that evening, Daniel gave a speech. I didn't know he was speaking. Apparently, neither did I, because Victoria never mentioned it. He walked onto the stage and talked about the department, about leadership, about sacrifice. Then he started talking about Victoria. I've known Victoria for over 15 years. People smiled. She was always different. I looked at Victoria. She was listening carefully. She was never afraid to take risks. The crowd applauded. Then Daniel said, and I was lucky enough to stand beside her during some of the hardest moments of her life. More applause. I understood what he was doing. He wasn't celebrating her career. He was reminding everyone that he was part of her story. Then he looked at me, and I know Ethan understands how special that connection is. The room became quiet. I felt every eye turned toward me. Daniel smiled. After all, some people inherit a place in someone's life. A pause. Others earn it. The message was obvious. I looked at Victoria, waiting. She knew. She had to know. Daniel had just insulted me in front of her colleagues, her husband, her friends, everyone. I waited for her to stand up. I waited for her to say, that's enough. She didn't. Instead, she smiled politely. And that hurt more than anything Daniel said. After the speech, a reporter approached. Chief Hayes, can we ask about your partnership with Daniel Cross? Victoria smiled. Daniel was an important person during my early career. The reporter laughed. Some people say you two were the perfect team. Daniel stepped closer. We were. The reporter looked at me. And Mr. Walker, how does it feel knowing your wife had such a legendary partner before you? I knew it was a trap. Everyone knew. I looked at Victoria. She could stop it. One sentence. That was all. But she didn't. So I answered myself. I'm proud of my wife's accomplishments. The reporter smiled. Very diplomatic. Daniel laughed. Ethan has always been supportive. Something about his tone bothered me. Like he was talking about an employee, not a husband. When we got home, I finally lost control. You knew. Victoria took off her earrings. Knew what? You knew Daniel was going to do that. She froze. Do what? Humiliate me. She shook her head. You're exaggerating. No, my voice was calm. Too calm. You knew. She looked annoyed. Ethan, not everything is about you. That sentence hit harder than I expected. I stared at her. Not everything is about me? Yes. You mean my wife letting another man disrespect me publicly isn't about me? He was making a joke. No. I stepped closer. He was trying to prove something. She crossed her arms. And what exactly was he trying to prove? I looked at her. That he still owns a part of you. Silence. Her face changed. Only for a second. But I saw it. And that was enough. That night, I made my first real recording. Not because I wanted to destroy Victoria. Because I needed to protect myself. I placed a recorder in my jacket pocket. The next morning, I planned to ask her one simple question. The answer would decide everything. When Victoria woke up, I was sitting at the kitchen table. She noticed immediately. What's wrong? I looked at her. Do you still love me? She stopped. The question surprised her. Why are you asking that? Just answer. She looked uncomfortable. Ethan, no explanations. He stared at her. Do you still love me? She looked away. And that was when I knew. Because a woman who loved me would have answered immediately. Yes, without hesitation, without fear, without thinking. But Victoria hesitated. Finally, she said, I care about you. I felt my heart sink. Not love. Care. There's a big difference. I nodded slowly. Got it. She frowned. Ethan, no. I stood up. Don't explain. I picked up my keys. Because for the first time, I believe you. That evening, I listened to the recording. I heard every pause, every hesitation, every excuse. And then I heard something I wasn't prepared for. A conversation Victoria had with Daniel after the gala. A conversation I accidentally captured when they were near my car. Daniel's voice came through clearly. You handled him perfectly. Victoria laughed softly. He's stubborn. But, she paused, but he'll eventually leave. Daniel asked, you're sure? Victoria answered, Ethan always forgives me. A few seconds of silence. Then Daniel said, that's why he's easy. And Victoria replied, I know. I closed my eyes. The woman I loved had just confirmed the one thing I feared. She wasn't afraid of losing me, because she believed I would never leave. She was wrong. I used to think losing someone happened when they walked away. I was wrong. Sometimes you lose someone while they are still standing in front of you. That was what happened with Victoria. She was still my wife. She still came home. She still asked me how my day was. But something had already died between us. The difference was she hadn't noticed, or maybe she had. Maybe she just didn't care. After I heard the recording, I didn't confront Victoria. Not immediately. A part of me wanted to. I wanted to walk into the bedroom, wake her up, and ask her how she could say those things about me. I wanted to hear her explain. I wanted her to tell me the recording wasn't what it sounded like. But another part of me knew the truth. People reveal themselves when they think they are safe. Victoria thought I was safe. She thought I would always forgive her. She thought I would never leave. So I stopped trying to convince her. I started watching. For the next 2 weeks, I became someone Victoria didn't recognize. I stopped asking where she was going. I stopped asking who she was texting. I stopped asking about Daniel. Not because I trusted her, because I no longer needed her answers. I had my own. One night, Victoria noticed a change. We were eating dinner. She put down her fork. You've been different lately. I looked at her. Different how? You don't ask questions anymore. I smiled slightly. Would you answer honestly if I did? Her expression changed. That's not fair. I nodded. Exactly. She looked away. Ethan, I don't want to fight. I'm not fighting. Then what are you doing? I thought about it. Then I answered, accepting things. She frowned. What things? That maybe I've been the only one trying to save this marriage. She didn't say anything. And again, her silence answered for her. A few days later, Victoria came home late. Very late. Almost midnight. I was sitting on the couch. She looked surprised. You're still awake? Yes. She placed her keys down. You waited for me? No. That answer confused her. No. I watched her carefully. I used to wait because I cared. She stared at me. And now, I looked away. Now I sleep when I'm tired. For the first time in weeks, I saw something close to fear in her eyes. Not guilt, fear, because she realized something. She was losing control. The next morning, Victoria tried to talk. Ethan, we need to fix this. I almost laughed. Fix what? Our marriage. I looked at her. Do you want to fix it? Yes. Why? She hesitated. Because I love you. That was the first time she said those words in weeks, but they sounded different, like she was saying them because she knew she should, not because she felt them. I asked, then why did you tell Daniel I would eventually leave? Her face changed, just slightly, but enough. What? You heard me. She froze. What are you talking about? I watched her reaction carefully. She was good at controlling her emotions. She was a police chief. She knew how to read people, but she wasn't prepared for me. I know about the conversations. Her face became pale. What conversations? With Daniel. A long silence followed. Then she said, Are you spying on me? I shook my head. No. Then how? I smiled. That's what worries you? She looked angry. You recorded me? I recorded conversations where I was present. That's not normal. I nodded. Neither is your husband finding out his wife thinks he's easy to control. Her expression changed. Ethan, you don't understand. No. I stood up. I understand perfectly. She followed me. Daniel and I have history. I know. You don't know everything. Then tell me. She stopped. I waited. Finally, tell me. Give me a reason. Give me something. But she didn't. Instead, she said, It's complicated. That was the sentence people use when the truth looked bad. I laughed. Of course it is. Ethan. No. Victoria. I looked at her. You know what's complicated? She stayed quiet. Trying to love someone who keeps choosing someone else. That afternoon, I met with my attorney. His name was Michael Reynolds. He had been a friend of mine for years. He wasn't the kind of lawyer who chased headlines. He handled corporate disputes and personal cases. When I finished explaining everything, he leaned back. Ethan, are you sure about this? About what? Going after her. I looked at him. I'm not going after her. Then what are you doing? I'm protecting myself. Michael nodded slowly. That's an important difference. I handed him copies of the recordings. He listened carefully. After 20 minutes, he removed his headphones. Ethan, yes? This is bigger than a marriage problem. I frowned. What do you mean? Daniel talks about using Victoria's position, and Victoria doesn't stop him. I didn't say anything. Michael continued. If these recordings are real, this could involve misconduct. I looked at him. Are you saying my wife broke the law? I'm saying your wife may have forgotten the rules she enforces on other people. That night, Victoria came home earlier than usual. She walked into the living room. Can we talk? I looked up. About what? Us. I nodded. Okay. She sat down. For a moment, she looked like the woman I married. Not Chief Hayes. Not the powerful woman everyone respected. Just Victoria. I know I've hurt you. I waited. I made mistakes. I almost interrupted. But I didn't. She continued. Daniel coming back brought up old memories. I asked, Old feelings? She looked down. That pause told me enough. Victoria. She whispered. I don't know. That answer hurt more than a confession, because it meant she had actually considered it. I asked, Do you want him? No. Too fast. I noticed. Then why did you hesitate? She looked frustrated. I don't know. I nodded. Thank you. She looked confused. For what? For finally being honest. The next day, something unexpected happened. Daniel contacted me. Not Victoria. Me. His message was simple. We need to talk. I ignored it. 5 minutes later, another message came. You don't understand what's happening. I stared at the screen. Then he called. I answered. Why are you calling me? Daniel laughed. Because I think you're making a mistake. A mistake? Yes. I stayed quiet. He continued. You're angry. No. You are. No. Daniel. I smiled. I'm disappointed. Silence. Then he said, Victoria and I have history. There is again. What? You keep saying that like history gives you permission. Daniel's voice became colder. You have no idea what Victoria and I went through. And you have no idea what she and I built. He laughed. Built? Yes. With what? Trust. He was silent. Then he said, Trust is fragile. I replied, So are lies. After that call, I made a decision. I wasn't going to expose Victoria because she hurt me. I was going to expose the truth because people like Daniel and Victoria believed they were untouchable. They believed power protected them. They were wrong. 3 days later, Victoria announced she wanted to separate, not privately, publicly. Her statement said, Chief Victoria Hayes and Ethan Walker are taking time apart to focus on personal matters. I read it online. I laughed. Personal matters. That was a nice way of saying, my husband became inconvenient. Michael called me. Ethan. Yes? She made the announcement. I know. What are you going to do? I looked at the folder sitting on my desk, the recordings, the messages, the evidence. I answered, I'm going to let her believe she won. Michael paused, and then I smiled. Then I'm going to show everyone what she really chose. That night, I listened to every recording again, every conversation, every lie, every moment Victoria thought I would never hear. Then I found something I missed before. A conversation between Daniel and Victoria after the charity gala. Daniel said, when this is over, you'll finally be free. Victoria asked, what about Ethan? Daniel laughed. He'll disappear. Then Victoria said, he always does what I ask. I closed my eyes. That was the moment I stopped hoping, stopped waiting, stopped loving the person I thought she was. Because the woman I loved would have protected me. Victoria protected her secret. I opened my laptop. I created a new folder. The name was simple, evidence. Inside were audio recordings, messages, dates, witness names, financial documents, everything. For the first time in months, I felt calm because I finally understood something. Victoria thought the recording would destroy me. She was wrong. The recording wasn't my weakness. It was the one thing she couldn't control. And soon, everyone would hear it. I always thought the truth would feel like victory. I was wrong. The truth felt heavy. Because when you finally expose someone you once loved, you don't just destroy them. You destroy the last hope that maybe things could have been different. For weeks, I had collected everything. The recordings, the messages, the dates, the conversations Victoria thought I would never hear. I had proof. But having proof and using were two different things. Because the person standing on the other side wasn't just a stranger. It was my wife. The woman I promised to love. The woman I once believed would stand beside me forever. The morning I submitted the evidence, I sat in my car for almost 10 minutes. My hand was on the folder. I could have driven away. I could have deleted everything. I could have told myself, let it go. A lot of people would have. But then I remembered Daniel's words. He always does what I ask. And Victoria's answer. I know. That was the moment I stopped thinking about revenge. This wasn't revenge. This was accountability. I walked into the internal affairs building. The officer at the front desk looked up. Can I help you? Yes. I placed the folder on the counter. My name is Ethan Walker. She looked at the paperwork. Do you have an appointment? No. She looked confused. Then what is this regarding? I looked directly at her. Police Chief Victoria Hayes. Her expression changed immediately. Are you filing a complaint? I nodded. Yes. An hour later, I was sitting across from Captain Rebecca Morgan from Internal Affairs. She had the kind of expression that told me she had seen everything. She opened the folder. Mr. Walker, before we begin, I need to ask something. Okay, are you doing this because of your divorce? The question didn't surprise me. I expected it. I answered honestly. My marriage ending is personal. She looked at the documents. But this isn't. She studied me. Explain. I leaned forward. My wife's personal choices are her business. I paused. But using her position to protect Daniel Cross is not. Rebecca opened the first audio file. She listened, then the second, then the third. Her expression changed slowly. Not shock, concern. Finally, she removed the headphones. Where did you get these? Some were recorded during conversations I was part of, and the others, I looked at her. I accidentally captured them. She nodded. Do you understand the seriousness of what you're submitting? Yes. Your wife could lose her position. I stayed quiet. Rebecca watched me. You still love her? It wasn't a question. I looked down. Yes. Then why are you here? I thought about it. Then I said, because loving someone doesn't mean protecting them from the consequences of their choices. The investigation started quietly. At first, that was the thing about powerful people. They always believed they had time. Victoria found out 3 days later. She called me at 7:15 in the morning. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Hello. Her voice was different. Not angry, not confident, scared. Ethan, yes? Did you go to internal affairs? I didn't respond. She already knew. Answer me. Yes. Silence. Then, how could you? I closed my eyes. That question told me everything. Not, why did I hurt you? Not, why did I let Daniel manipulate me? Only, how could you expose me? I could ask you the same thing. Her voice became emotional. Ethan, you don't understand what this will do. I laughed quietly. No, I corrected her. I understand exactly what this will do. You're destroying my career. I looked out the window. No, Victoria. My voice became calm. You did that. She came to my apartment that night. I almost didn't open the door, but I did. She looked exhausted, for the first time in years. She didn't look like Police Chief Victoria Hayes. She looked like someone who was afraid. Please. That was the first word she said. Not hello. Not how are you. Please. I need you to withdraw it. He's still to here. No. Her face changed. Ethan. No. You don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. She shook her head. This is my life. I nodded. And this was my life. She looked away. That's not fair. I almost smiled. Fair? I repeated the word. Do you want to talk about fair? She said nothing. I continued. Fair was me supporting you when nobody believed you. Fair was me staying awake every night when you were investigating dangerous cases. Fair was me defending you when everyone said your job would destroy our marriage. My voice lowered, and then you chose another man. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. It wasn't like that. I looked at her. Then tell me what it was. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Again, silence. The answer. A week later, the story leaked. The headline appeared everywhere. Police Chief Victoria Hayes under investigation. Following secret audio, recordings the city exploded. Everyone had an opinion. Some defended her. Some attacked her. But everyone wanted to know one thing. Was the recording real? Victoria held a press conference. I watched it online. She stood behind microphones. I want everyone to know that these allegations are based on a personal dispute. There it was. Her strategy. Make it about me. Make it about a bitter husband. Then she said, my marriage has recently ended, and I believe these accusations are motivated by anger. I stared at the screen. I couldn't believe it. Even now, even after everything, she was still trying to make me the villain. That afternoon, Michael called me. She's going public. I saw. She's trying to control the story. I know. You need to be prepared. For what? The hearing. I was quiet. Michael continued. They'll play the recordings. I nodded. That's what I want. You're sure? I looked at the evidence folder. Yes. The hearing happened 2 weeks later. Victoria arrived with attorneys. She looked confident again. For a moment, I saw the woman everyone respected, the woman who could command a room. Then I remembered the woman who told Daniel I was easy. The committee began questioning her. Chief Hayes, did you provide confidential assistance to Daniel Cross? No. Did you use department resources to help him? No. Did you ever discuss removing Ethan Walker from your personal life? Her expression changed. No. That answer lasted 5 seconds. Then the audio started. Daniel's voice filled the room. You're sure he won't cause problems? Victoria answered. Ethan won't fight back. I watched her face. For the first time, she couldn't control the situation. The recording continued. Daniel, he always forgives you. Victoria, I know. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then came the worst part. Daniel, love makes people easy. Victoria, exactly. The room was silent. The committee members looked at her, not like they were looking at a police chief, like they were looking at someone they no longer recognized. One member asked, "Chief Hayes, is this your voice?" Victoria didn't answer. "Chief Hayes?" She finally whispered. Yes, the word was barely audible, but everyone heard it. After the hearing ended, Victoria walked toward me. Her lawyers were behind her. For once, she didn't look angry. She looked broken. "Ethan," I stopped. "What?" She looked at me. I never wanted it to get this far. I stared at her. "But you let it." She looked down. "I made mistakes." I shook my head. "No, Victoria." I stepped back. "You made choices." She started crying. "I loved you." That sentence hurt, because part of me still wanted to believe it, but I couldn't anymore. I answered, "If you loved me, you would have protected me." She looked at me, "And if you respected me, you wouldn't have done this." I nodded. "There it is." "What?" "The difference between us." I looked at her. "You think I destroyed your career." I paused. "I think your choices did." 3 days later, the decision was announced. Victoria Hayes was suspended, pending further investigation. Her badge was taken. Her authority was gone. The woman who spent years building a reputation around justice had lost everything. Not because of one recording, because the recording revealed who she really was. That night, I received one final message. From Daniel, only 3 words. "You were right." I stared at the screen. Then another message arrived. She was never going to choose me either. I almost laughed. Even at the end, Daniel was still making it about himself. I deleted the message because I finally understood something. I didn't win. I simply stopped losing. I thought the hardest part would be watching Victoria lose everything. Her badge, her position, her reputation. I thought I would feel satisfied. I thought I would feel like I had finally won. But when the headlines disappeared and the noise became quiet, I realized something. I never wanted her career to end. I wanted her to understand what she had done. There was a difference, a big one. 3 months had passed since the investigation began. Victoria Hayes was no longer the police chief of Brookhaven. The woman who once controlled every room she entered was now just another name in the news. Her official statement said she was cooperating with the investigation. Her lawyers said she had made professional judgment errors. Everyone had a different explanation. Everyone except me. I knew the truth. Victoria didn't lose everything because of one mistake. She lost everything because she kept choosing the wrong people until there was nothing left to choose. My life changed too. Not overnight. Real life doesn't work like that. There was no magical moment where everything became perfect. I still woke up some mornings angry. I still remember the woman Victoria used to be. The woman who laughed with me in the kitchen. The woman who held my hand when I lost my father. The woman who promised me, "Whatever happens, it's always us." That was the hardest part. Not losing her. Losing the person I thought she was. One afternoon, Michael called me. "Ethan, hey, you heard?" I knew what he meant. About Victoria? Yes. I leaned back. "What happened?" "The department finalized their decision." I stayed quiet. Michael continued. "She's officially resigned." I closed my eyes. After everything, hearing those words still felt heavy. She resigned? Yes. Was she forced? No. A pause. She chose to. I looked at the floor. For years, Victoria had fought for that position. She had sacrificed everything for it. And now she was walking away. Michael asked, "Are you okay?" I smiled slightly. "That's a complicated question." "Fair enough." Then he said, "You know, most people would be celebrating. I'm not most people." "No." Michael paused. "That's why this bothered you so much." I didn't answer, because he was right. I wasn't happy. I was just tired. A week later, Victoria contacted me. A simple message. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. The old Ethan would have answered immediately. The old Ethan would have hoped. He would have thought, maybe this is the moment she finally understands. But I wasn't that person anymore. Still, I replied, "Okay." We met at a small coffee shop near downtown. Victoria arrived first. When I saw her, I almost didn't recognize her. Not because she looked different, Because she looked human. For years, everyone saw Chief Victoria Hayes, the leader, the officer, the woman who never broke. But sitting across from me was just Victoria, my wife, or the woman who used to be. She looked at me. Thank you for coming. I nodded. You wanted to talk? Yes. A long silence followed. Then she said, I'm sorry. I waited. That was the moment I had imagined hundreds of times. The apology, the regret, the moment she finally admitted what she did. But when it came, it didn't feel the way I expected. Because apologies don't erase damage. They only acknowledge it. I asked, what are you sorry for? Her eyes filled with tears. For hurting you. I nodded. Okay. She looked surprised. That's it? What do you want me to say? I don't know. I looked at her. That's the problem. Victoria. She lowered her head. I know I made mistakes. I shook my head. No. She looked up. I made mistakes too. Everyone makes mistakes. I paused. But mistakes are accidental. Her expression changed. Ethan, you made choices. Silence. You chose Daniel. Her eyes closed. You chose protecting him over protecting me. I was confused. No. I looked at her. You were selfish. She didn't argue. And somehow, that hurt more after a few minutes. She whispered, do you hate me? The question surprised me. I thought about it. Then I answered honestly. No. She looked up. No, I don't hate you. Then why does it feel like you do? Because I stopped chasing you. That hurt her. I could see it. But it was the truth. I spent months trying to make you see me. I continued. I beg you to understand why I was hurt. She wiped her eyes. I know. No, you don't. My voice became softer. You know now. She looked away. And I knew she finally understood. Too late. She reached into her bag. I brought something. She placed an envelope on the table. I looked at it. What is that? Letters. I frowned. Letters? Things I wrote after everything happened. I didn't touch them. Why? Because I wanted you to know I did love you. I looked at her. Victoria. She stopped. I believe you love me. Her eyes lifted. Then why? Because loving someone isn't enough. She looked confused. What do you mean? You loved me when I made your life easier. I paused. But when loving me required you to make a difficult choice, you chose yourself. She looked down, and for the first time, she didn't defend herself. A few weeks later, Daniel Cross's truth finally came out, not because of me, because of his own actions. After Victoria resigned, he tried to distance himself from everything. He gave interviews. He claimed he had no involvement. He said, Victoria made her own decisions. But then investigators found his messages, his emails, his conversations with other people. The evidence showed he had manipulated Victoria from the beginning. He never wanted her back. He wanted access, her influence, her power, her name. When Victoria learned the truth, she called me. I answered. Hello. Her voice was quiet. It was never real. I knew what she meant. Daniel? Yes. I said nothing. He never loved me. No. She cried. He just loved what I could do for him. I looked out the window. Now you understand. She was silent. Then she asked, did you know? Yes. Why didn't you tell me? I thought about it. Because you wouldn't have believed me. She didn't answer. Because she knew I was right. 6 months after everything happened, I moved forward. I started a new position with a private security company. Nothing dramatic. Nothing designed to prove anything. I just wanted peace. One day, a former colleague asked me, do you ever regret exposing Victoria? I thought about that question. A year ago, I would have answered differently. Now I said, no, not even a little. I shook my head. I regret trusting someone who stopped respecting me. I paused, but I don't regret protecting myself. The final time I saw Victoria was outside the courthouse. The divorce papers were ready. She looked at me. Is this really the end? I held the papers. Yes. She nodded slowly. I wish things were different. So do I. That was the truth. I wish they were different. But wishing didn't change reality. She said, I lost everything. I looked at her. No, She looked confused. What? You lost the things you built on lies. I paused. But you still have the chance to become someone better. She smiled sadly. You still care about me. I looked at her. Yes. A tear rolled down her face. Then why leave? Because that was a question. The question she never understood. I answered. Because caring about someone doesn't mean destroying yourself for them. I signed the papers. So, did she? 5 years of marriage ended with 2 signatures. No screaming. No revenge. No remate gudvie. Just 2 people accepting that love was enough. Years later, someone asked me about Victoria. Do you ever think about her? I smiled. Sometimes. Do you miss her? I thought about the woman I married, the woman she became, the woman she lost. Then I answered. I miss who she was. A pause. But I don't miss who she chose to become. People always said the recording ended Victoria Hayes' career. They were wrong. The recording didn't destroy her. It revealed her. Her choices destroyed her career. Her pride destroyed our marriage. And my silence protected me until I was ready. The world finally heard the truth because I pressed play, but the truth was there long before recording. I just needed the courage to stop ignoring it. I walked away from Victoria Hayes without revenge, without hatred, without regret, because the greatest victory wasn't watching her fall. It was realizing I no longer needed her to rise. The recording ended her career overnight, but walking away gave me my life back.